podium needs to be taller. So I just got my voice back, so might still be a little rough. So what led me here? I've always found solace in education and art. This from when I was small, when books and art were my place of refuge from the violence. My stepmother made sure that I could read pretty young as a way of deflecting me away from what had happened. Just learning to read. So I was in lockup some time ago when a friend of mine comes up to me and says, "Chevy, can you read this to me?" And he holds out some paperwork. And I look at it and I said, "I'm not a legal beagle. I don't know how much help I'd be able to be." And he said, "It's not that I need a legal beagle." He said, "I can't read." He was 42 years old, didn't know how to read. I did not find this as acceptable. So my only option, we started using a Bible when I taught him how to read. 8 years later, he completed a 2-year college vocational program. He was also not he was not the only one that I came across in my time in there that could not read, and was subsequently taken advantage of by our court system. Again, something I found unacceptable. My answer, I have since helped with the limited resources that I could, more than a few hundred men on their way to get their GEDs and AA degrees. A number have started with little to no reading skills. My academic path to the Evergreen State College began in the Sustainability in Prisons Project, SPP, down in Aberdeen, while I was still locked up. I saw the caliber and lack of judgment from the educational staff of Evergreen. I wanted to continue in that college. I found Evergreen had a satellite project and registered there for the classes. My intention was towards environmental studies, geared towards a collaborative effort with therapeutic community models. Evergreen has both environmental studies I sought, as well as the sociological components I needed. My goal was to learn what I needed to catalyze and facilitate therapeutic communities with a target resident base of formerly justice involved, as we've changed it up, and veterans, because both of them are forming the far majority of our homeless here in Pierce County. Again, something I find unacceptable. The added element of reentry was heavy on my mind as I was experiencing resisting to getting into Evergreen, and because at that point in time in the work release, there was more than a dozen people being told no. They didn't know how to fight it. They didn't know what to do to continue on or push forward. So they did not get their AA degrees, their vocational certificates, and even a couple of them just getting a GED. This courtesy of DOC. When I say that I find things unacceptable, I might be a little off, but I chalk it up to my fairly recently found term of white privilege. Now that I know what it is, there's no reason why I can't capitalize on it to go ahead and help those of my community, which is us. When you look at my face, you don't see my Shoshone heritage. You don't see that I have enough I can go live with my aunt on the reservation. What you see is the Germanic side. You don't get to see a lot of that. And it is something that when I came to this college, it's also something that didn't matter. Stood out. I hope more people find some of these things unacceptable. Unacceptable enough that it makes them uncomfortable, uncomfortable enough that it makes them take action. I enrolled in Evergreen in the fall of 2018 while still in work release program, along with 2 other women here that had similar paths. What I don't have in their intelligence, and they both look better, I make up for in determination. I bring them up because in one of my first classes, minding the midterm, I was a little late working with Vicki, doing a couple last-minute bits of paperwork. And I entered the class a few minutes after the video started. And at the time, it was the Kavanaugh interviews, if anybody remembers them. The doctor was just giving her testimony of some of what Kavanaugh did. And so I'm walking into the classroom, And I look over and I'm hearing it first and I'm thinking, oh, that's not cool. I look in the class and I'm used to most of the classes for my associate's degree, it was all men. And now I'm looking at the other way around. There's 2 other men in the classroom and one of them was, Professor Bacho. And I'm thinking, did I step in the wrong class? And then the rest of it, I sat down and I start to hear Kavanaugh's part, and I'm like, whew, yes, the poli-sci class. But it was in that class that Kiwi, Ta, and Precious would tell me of something else that I had never heard of before that class. It was the term white privilege. They were floored that I had not heard of it at the age of 46 years old and schooled me in that and white fragility. Not all lessons in here are from the instructors. As I took the courses, I saw the importance of more sociology classes necessary for my goals. Through these goals, through the course of my classes, my emphasis has been sociology, social justice. The interdisciplinary teaching style gave me a better set of tools to work with as I press on towards my goals. My course studies included sociology, literatures, history, psychology, and even some law now. I have not just learned these subjects, I've learned how they're connected and how to connect them to each other. Not only were issues brought up in classes and seminars, the teaching and discussions held were what the roots of the problems were, and more importantly, the solutions. We weren't just complaining, we were coming up with things to counter how to fix it. The problems, the cycles of problems, are better addressed as a community than by individual effort, a concept reiterated through group projects as part of the curriculum at SC. The groups I've been a part of have not just been for scholastic endeavors. As I've had to go through a bit of a culture shift, I've made a number of friends, and I guess even family here, both in students and instructors. These discussions and lessons have been as important as the classes I've taken here. The group projects and spring fair projects have been, on one hand, something really cool, and yet, group text chats, oh my God. I understand team building and I see it as a good thing. The only bad thing I have to say about any of the group projects are chat texts, and I'm sure at some point I will miss them. Just not anytime soon. In those group projects, I've learned to bridge gaps in communication in the community I am in, and I will use that knowledge I've gained to bring awareness to those in the community towards a more cohesive effort by the community itself. As regardless of race, gender, sex, age, or class, we are all members of that community. Some people just don't see it that way. And we need to work together. Most all of our classes have reiterated this, which is kind of cool. And not all the lessons have been amicable. During one session of a class, there was a discussion of religion and its view on right or wrong and sexuality. I'd wanted to say something at the time that the discussion was happening, because most disagreements that we have in those classes, it's cool because they're opportunity for discussion. And our discussions here are so much more open than many that I've had. So I wanted to say something, but the temperature of it just wasn't right, and I had to wait a week. Because on one hand, I've got a friend who her feelings were hurt by somebody else pushing a religious issue that he was not able to have any give on. And that whole situation was a lesson for me. I didn't like it, but I got to see now, two sides of that issue. And my family, what I was raised in, was very right-wing Republican. They would have been offending my friend too, and that woman has become, a really good friend of mine. She's always been there anytime I've needed that, because she's part of that family. And so I got to say something the following week, but most of the discussions we have, it is cool, because usually a disagreement is an opening for discussing. So that stood out too. As we approach our group discussions, we should be able to do so in such a manner that disagreements are opportunity for discussion, not grounds for argument. In entering to learn, departing to serve, there is no place for contention amongst us as we grow here. Again, is anything else acceptable? My goals are to create functioning therapeutic community models serving as alternatives to incarceration, with actual rehabilitation efforts for those who have been incarcerated, as well as further involvement in reform, if not rebuilding, the current programs of rehabilitation engaged in our Department of Corrections. I've already been asked to, in some of what we've done on JSIG Group and our own projects, I've been asked by the Sheriff of Pierce County to sit on a panel to start examining and restructuring where we're going wrong. My goal for the next step in my education is to pursue a master's degree that will refine my writing ability to give me the tools I need towards therapy and policy for those in therapeutic communities I will be catalyzing. While you are here, every professor, every administrator, and every student is a source of reliance. I'm not going to name Professor Shepard and her kick to the rear from time to time when I was stubborn, but even that there's when it's needed. Dr. Aziz, how are you doing? And the conversations that Dr. Tatarunga and I have had. Dr. Lee or Dr. Lehner's conversation and guidance that pretty frank. Leah's help in the writing lab, Natasha's gentle reminder of right now. Students that I've made good friends with, Ben, Pasha, Charlene, Ted, Ta, Kiwi, a number of others that have had impact on me in the last couple of years. Hopefully, as you enter and learn, you will find the things I have. Hopefully, also see those things that are unacceptable so that as you set your sights on them, as you depart to serve, you work on changing them. And one of the phrases that I'm robbing somebody of this right now, but it's always a good one. Are you with me?